Hello everyone, it's Brian here in Toronto, of course. Let's start by addressing a grassroots movement out of Buffalo. Now, if you watch Mike and his misnamed channel, MGK Boston, you may be aware of an effort by him to have me change the name of my channel and the focus of my channel, but just so that we're all clear, I'm continuing with the no logo, no outlaw approach to my channel. So it's an interesting idea. I'll keep it in mind, but I foresee no changes in the future. Now, I've been watching videos from lots of people, and the other day I watched a video from James Griffiths, who was responding to a thread that was started by Chris at Dixieland Farm, which is a channel that is new to me. Now, Chris did this video called Show a Record You Always Wanted to But Had No Reason to. Interesting idea. And he showed one fascinating record. When James did the thread, he decided to show 10 records he had never had a reason to show. And I thought that's a really interesting idea. I'm in the situation where I show most of the things that I buy, so they come up, and I show records as they need to be for threads and tags or whatever other video I do. You know, I did some about songs about Toronto, bands from Toronto, songs about hockey, whatever. Things come up and I show records. But the fact is there's a lot of records sitting back in the shelves that have been there the entire time. I'd have never pulled them out. I could do this video dozens of times over and still not show everything that I have in my collection. So I'm going to I have picked 10 records that I have never shown before. There's no theme here. There's no logic to why I chose these records. I just not randomly. I mean, I looked at the shelves and I pulled stuff out, and here we have 10 records I've never shown before. So let's get started. The first one I picked was Peter Gabriel Plays Live, which is his 5th record overall. It follows the first 4 solo records he did, his first live album from 1983. I really love this record. I think I can't remember exactly when I got it. I may not have gotten it in 1983. I probably didn't when it came out. But it's a double record with a collection of really excellent tracks that Peter plays live. And if we look inside, we have 2 sleeves. Now, interestingly, Peter's here wearing the makeup that he was known for when he was in Genesis. And one thing I appreciate on this record is that they're pretty honest about how this record was done. So one of the statements here, if you have this record, you'll know that it says, although this album was compiled from 4 concerts in the Midwest of the United States, some additional recordings took place in the studio, essentially. The generic term for this process is cheating, in quotation marks. So I appreciate that because I'm sure that's something that has been done numerous times on various live albums. They either fix some parts, they might re-record parts, they might fix the vocals, that kind of thing. They're pretty honest that they did it, but they say they tried to keep the essence of the recording, including human imperfections. That's really kind of cool. So it starts off with The Rhythm of the Heat, which is my favorite Peter Gabriel track, and moves through some well-known early Peter Gabriel songs like I Have the Touch. What's on here? Biko, Shock the Monkey, Salisbury Hill. Weirdly, they separate DIY and On the Air, which I thought was a really strange thing to do. San Jacinto. There's also that track that was performed here first. I Go Swimming, which I'll be honest, I don't really love that song. But everything else I think is fabulous. And it's a really good sounding record, and I recommend it. Number 2, I've chosen kind of a maybe lesser known album from a band. This is Bauhaus, and it's got a really nice embossed lettering here. So it says Go Away White under there, embossed, hard to read. Beautiful album cover. This came out in 2008. It was their first record in 25 years. They essentially broke up 25 years before this, and they went on to do other things. You know, the remaining Peter Murphy went on to do a solo career. The other guys did various projects, and they did get back together and do some live tours, and then they did an album called Gotham, which is apparently their final concert, which actually turned out not to be their final concert. I was planning to go see the last tour, but it was canceled, unfortunately. Love the album package here, though. It's hard to read what's here because of the font. On the inside, we have the limited edition white vinyl from 2008. This has never been repressed, so only 2008. There's a CD version, which I have, and then the CD came out again, I think, in 2015, I think, but the vinyl's only ever been pressed in 2008, so it's really difficult to find. It has a sticker. It's a classic-looking Bauhaus image, not stuck on anything. Has a very cool folded insert here with the words up here. I come with this darkness and go away white, single-sided. And if you're a Bauhaus fan and you don't know this record, you might want to check it out because I think it's better than some people might suggest. For example, Too Much 21st Century is a great track. Adrenaline, I love that track. International Bulletproof Talent, also really, really cool. Now, as I understand it, the 3 members, apart from Peter Murphy, went in the studio to start working on it, and it was a bit fractious, but then Peter Murphy showed up and kind of got things going. So his voice sounds great. Really pretty good record from Bauhaus. What else is in here? Oh, the original inner sleeve. Okay. Next, I chose a band from Toronto. Well, actually from Scarborough. Scarborough is formerly a borough on the eastern side of Toronto. And the band is called Goddo. This is Pretty Bad Boys. Goddo is a band formed by Greg Godovitz, another Canadian trio. I think there was a personnel change later. Now, this was, I think, their 5th. Was it their 5th record? 5th record, maybe. They reformed 9 years after this. I haven't heard that record. I think they did 2 records after the reformation, and I haven't heard either of them. They're kind of like a rock band, maybe with a bit of a blues element. Very popular in the live scene in Toronto. And I could have picked any Goddo record. I haven't shown any of them as far as I remember. Oh, by the way, I should say, how do I know I've never shown a record before? And the fact is, I have on my computer, for every video I do, I write down or make a note of the records that I have shown. Now, I'm not as obsessive compulsive as someone like Steve from the new channel. A is for Alice, B is for Bob, C is for, formerly of All the World's a Stage. I'm not that obsessive that I have spreadsheets of everything I listen to, but for the VC, I have put notes of what records I've shown, so I can search it and find out that I have never shown this record. The only exception is for when I used to do random record pulls, I never wrote those down, anyway, getting off topic. I chose this one because it's well known for a certain track on here called Pretty Bad Boy, and I'll just read you some of the lyrics because it's kind of funny. So, in the song, he calls out the girl in the first row, saying that she's good looking, like to know her. He says, you can have it fast, you can have it slow. You show me yours, I'll show you mine. Bring a willing girlfriend, she can be next in line. He sings, I'm just a pretty bad boy. Pretty bad boys need pretty girls too. Then he goes on to say, we can go to my place, got rugs, beds, showers, lubricants, and things that bind. I ain't no Mike Mandel, but I can read your mind. And I thought that's always been interesting. Mike Mandel, for those who don't know, it's an interesting name drop. He is a hypnotist who was born in the UK but raised in Toronto, which is probably why I know him. I've seen him perform. He does this thing where he hypnotizes people, and you may be skeptical as I was, and think, well, you can't really hypnotize people. But if you're disposed to wanting to be hypnotized, apparently it's simple to do. Well, not for me, I've never tried it, but you get people up on stage and hypnotize them, and the results were very interesting. Let me just say that. It's an interesting name drop there. Okay, number 4, we have, featuring the Bryan Ferry Orchestra, a selection of yellow cocktail music from Baz Luhrmann's film The Great Gatsby jazz recordings, and this came out in 2013. It's a limited edition. I have number 195. There's the gatefold. Now, this is a fascinating record. It has mostly the Bryan Ferry Orchestra. Sometimes it's credited as Bryan Ferry and the Bryan Ferry Orchestra. Sometimes just the Bryan Ferry Orchestra. But it has a few other songs from other artists, like Jelly Roll Morton is on here, Irving Aronson and his Commanders. We have Louis Armstrong, Andrea Martin, and the Bryan Ferry Orchestra. And so it's a combination of music of the period that has been covered here. Plus, there are some songs more contemporary that have the throwback sound. So, for example, we have the Bryan Ferry Orchestra doing Amy Winehouse's Back to Black. We have them doing Love is the Drug. There's a Beyonce song on here that they cover. Also, there's New York, Empire State of Mind, Part 2, Broken Down, which is, Alicia Keys, written by her and Jay-Z, etc. So it's a very interesting combination of stuff. And let's show you the record. It's this interesting blue vinyl release. And it comes with this nice booklet where you'll get images from the movie, or I guess images of people in the movie. So for example, we have Leonardo DiCaprio, and then information about the tracks. Talks about Back to Black here. Anyway, some images that look like they're from the time period. So pretty cool. That's a fun record. Now, number 5. I'm a huge Lou Reed fan, as you may know, and I have done a ranking of Lou Reed, but I've never really I've shown Velvet Underground records from time to time. Here's a kind of a curiosity. This is credited to Lou Reed and the Velvet Underground, so it's essentially a compilation record of the Velvet Underground, but oddly, it came out in 1971, so they put Lou Reed's name front and center. It comes from Germany. I'm a bit of a sucker for oddball records from artists that I really like, and in some cases I'm a completist for certain things. So if I ever see a Leonard Cohen record that I don't have, some weird European compilation, I will grab it. So I bought this even though I have all of the tracks. I bought it anyway because I thought it was a really interesting thing to have. Kind of a terrible photo of Lou though. So this has 9 tracks. So things like Sister Ray, Lady Godiva's Operation Heroin, Sunday Morning, really early stuff. White Light, White Heat. As I mentioned, it's from West Germany. And it's on the MGM label. So that's kind of cool. Don't remember where I got it, but interesting. All right, here's a band I really don't know very much about, I'll be completely honest. And it's the only record I have from this band, but they're called Widespread Panic. I mean, a little bit about them, Southern rock, blues rock, jam rock. This, I believe, is their 11th record from 2010. And the hype sticker, which just fell out, says, Dirty Side Down, new studio album, 2 times 180 gram LP, and not weirdly, they include the entire album on a CD, which they included. And this is something I used to find, I think we all find more often, but I think labels have stopped doing that for some reason. Now, the New York Press writes, the Widespread Panic experience is not only unique, it is powerful, transcendent. So that's the hype sticker there. And there's 2 LPs in here, as I mentioned. And this is actually really good. I never really pursued this band after this record, after I got this record. I just sort of listened to this and that's it. But so there's very little I know about this band, except I know that I've never mentioned it before. Isn't that funny? All right, another band. I can't remember if I should have. I know I looked up to see if I'd mentioned this record before, but I'm not sure if I mentioned them in general before. But it's a band out of Chicago called the Sea and Cake. I do really love the photo on the album cover there. I guess I'm still getting over a cold. I had to sneeze. So the Sea and Cake. Weird name, the Sea and Cake. And apparently it was something to do with a mishearing of someone saying sea in cake, like the letter C in cake. I should look it up. But and this is a jazzy kind of indie post-rock band, as I mentioned, from Chicago. This particular record appeals to me for a lot of reasons. I really like the music, but there's also track 10 is a cover version of David Bowie's Sound and Vision, one of my favorite David Bowie tracks. And they do a fairly straight up version of that song, like you wouldn't mistake it for something else. Unlike that Disaster that Beck did, there's a video on YouTube of Beck covering Sound and Vision, which is actually terrible. But this is really good. Very boring inside though. Download code and then his plain label here. But a really interesting band. I have many of their records, but there's a couple I'm missing, but I think they're really interesting. Now back to 1988 for some conscious hip-hop, some political hip-hop, or rap, whatever you want to call it. Public Enemy, It Takes a Nation of Millions to Hold Us Back. A really interesting record. Now, around this time, maybe 87, the radio station I was listening to started to include, maybe it was 86, somewhere around there, started to include some hip hop and rap music into their programming, which was really strange because they never really played that anymore. And one of the first tracks that really grabbed my attention on that station was Going Back to Cali by LL Cool J, which I believe came out in very early 1988. They also played Eric B. and Rakim, and then they played a bit of Public Enemy. And so the big track on here that I remember is, of course, Bring the Noise. And you may know that they did a re-recording of that with Anthrax, which I think is just a little bit better. But on Def Jam Recordings, very political record. It's the other side of the insert with everyone listed here. Interesting band. I don't think I have to say much about them, but never came up on my channel before. The next record I chose because when I first heard it, I didn't like it. Now that seems strange when you see what it is, but I preferred their first record, and when I heard this record, I was a little underwhelmed. That is Tears for Fears, Songs from the Big Chair. And why would I not like this record? Well, I guess I like The Hurting so much that this seemed like a big change for me. Maybe it wasn't, but my next door neighbor when I was in university got this on cassette and played it a lot. And he kept playing side one, and I kept hearing Shout almost every hour. And I thought it was kind of a dumb song. Everybody wants to rule the world, okay. I think when he finally flipped the tape, I like side two a lot better because it has more of a progressive pop feel, I think, than side one. Maybe I'm totally misguided there, but I also didn't love this record cover. I was kind of irritated by bands who would put their faces right up on the record cover and preferred something a little more artistic. And I thought every time I'd see someone's face right on the cover like this, I thought it's a sellout, which is kind of strange to think about. But I grew to like this record a lot more than I did when I first heard it. And now I think it's fine. But one of those weird things. Some stills there. And I still don't love Shout. I think that's head over heels even. I'm not a huge fan of, but there's certain elements of this record that really appeal to me. So I do like it now. I'll show you the label here if you want to see that. I think you've seen that before. And that's number 9. So the last one I picked is kind of one that some people may never heard of before, and it's an outfit called Thad Gadget, but that's really just the name of one guy, Francis John Tovey, who recorded under the name Thad Gadget. And this is Gag from did I write it down here? 1984. Interesting album cover because you look at it, it flips this way. He was Frank Tovey was the man behind this. It was really him, but he had a bunch of musicians associated with it that he'd bring in. So, for example, on this record, believe it or not, Roland S. Howard plays guitar on 2 tracks on here, which is kind of interesting. I don't think I knew who he was when I got this record. Now, he's kind of, and I keep putting him in the past tense because he died in 2002 of a heart attack. So he lived from 1956 to 2002. Avant-garde electric music. And I noted what Wikipedia said about him. It says music was characterized by the use of synthesizers in conjunction with the sound of found objects, including drills and electric razors. His bleak, sarcastic, and darkly humorous lyrics were filled with biting social commentary towards subjects such as machinery, industrialization, consumerism, human sexuality, mass media, religion, domestic violence, and dehumanization, often sung in a deadpan voice. So if you don't know anything about this guy, I would say check out the track Collapsing New People, which I think is really excellent. And the inside here is just a plain sleeve, polyline sleeve, which I'm just noticing now. I don't know, I've never noticed this before. It's made in Great Britain. There's a patent, 3 patent numbers on the sleeve. Really? You can patent a inner sleeve. Interesting. There we have Thad Gadget. So that is pretty interesting. Now, if you have 10 records you've never shown before, I'm sure we all would love to see them. So that's it for today. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next video.